I'm blue, ba da dee da doo da, boo da boo dee da doo da. Bro, you guys are dude. I hate all of you guys so much.
Set him up.
No, I need to say this. Jacob just said before we do this show, he wanted to come on singing that song. I hate that is out on the internet now, but whatever, forget it. We're gonna jump into the cold hard truth.
Feeling blue.
Oh, whatever. Can you, Jacob, shut up. We're going to jump into the show. The cold, hard truth. We got some Donovan Mitchell trade talk to discuss. Russell Wilson contract extension. We're going to go over the NFL Top 100. Look ahead to Week 1 starting this Thursday. Welcome to another great episode of the Cold, Hard Truth starting right now.
Are you crazy?
God, that's fake.
Buddy, what are you doing?
As I said, guys, welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth. We got a bunch of fun topics to get into today. It's Santino Maoni here with Peyton Marshall, Conor Armstrong, and Jacob Jarrett. How you guys doing today on Labor Day, our day off at school?
Woohoo! What's up, fellas?
Pretty good. Pretty bad weather over here. How's the weather over you guys?
Not great. Not great.
Yeah, no.
I had a bit of a little rain on my way home from the ballpark today where I saw a 5-2 Yankees win.
Finally.
Which included Aaron Judge home run, his 54th of the year.
Guy's on a tear right now. But listen, we're going to jump into it, head straight to the NBA because we got some big news. I believe it was about 2 days ago. Donovan Mitchell has been traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The deal included Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps headed over to Utah, and the Cavaliers get shooting guard star player Donovan Mitchell. Overall reactions to this trade, Peyton, there were a lot of rumors about the Knicks maybe being involved in it. RJ Barrett, maybe a swap of those two guys. The Cavs ultimately got it done. What were your initial reactions to seeing that move get done?
I think it's a good trade for both teams. I was a little bit disappointed to see Mitchell not go to the Knicks, even though I'm a Celtics guy. I was kind of hoping for some good news for the Knicks, but I don't think it's going to come. I don't know if it puts the Cavs in contention for the East, but it definitely makes them a good team. But I honestly thought it was an even trade. I didn't really think much more than that. Mitchell had to go. Obviously, the Jazz needed to part ways with him, and I thought they got a decent return for him. So I thought it was a good trade both ways.
Conor, overall thoughts on the deal?
Another summer, another missed opportunity. I mean, they just never stop. I mean, I'm really not surprised that he's not a Knick right now. I really wish that he was. But Leon Rose decided to fall asleep at the wheel at the last minute. The deal was in their hands and let it slip right through. So,
yeah, it's tough. Jacob, reactions to the move?
I mean, I was on the side that for the deal to happen for the Knicks, that RJ should not have been involved. They seemed to borderline refuse to even look at a deal that didn't include RJ Barrett in it. So I'm kind of on both sides of it. I wouldn't have been okay with parting ways with RJ and the Hall. Because in my opinion, with his age and the way that he's gotten better each year, I only value him like slightly less than Mitchell. So for us to have given RJ and a bunch of picks and another guy or two, I thought
possibly Mitchell Robinson too, which would not have been good for you guys.
Yeah, no. Because it's like, what's the point of even making the trade if you're not going to have anyone to play with them after anyway? So I don't mind it that it didn't happen under the circumstances. I think it would have made the Knicks a lot better, of course. But, we'll roll with Brunson, who, is the type of deal where if you get the utmost that you can get out of him, they're going to be a decent team.
I have a quick question for you, Jacob, though. You brought up RJ Barrett. He got his 4 years, $120 million contract. Did you feel he was worth the money the Knicks just gave him now after signing Brunson in the offseason?
I think based on the trajectory of just contracts in general, especially in the NBA, I'd have to say yes. Normally, like my initial process of thought would have said it might have been a bit high considering his age. But the fact that, like I mentioned, he has gotten better every year. And we see guys like Keldon. If Keldon Johnson's going to get $80 million, then RJ Barrett can
that was a massive deal. He was not worth
I don't
that.
even know who that is. Honestly.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
Yeah, so it's like if non-household name guys on, not popular teams are going to get 20 plus, then RJ's worth high 20s or 30 because he's that good.
Definitely.
And just one quick thing, and I was telling Conor this, like, not to say that the Knicks are going to be good or assume anything about how good they'll be, but they genuinely probably have not had a point guard as good as Jalen Brunson in 20 years. I mean, think about the last decade.
What?
I can't think of one Knicks starting point guard as good as Jalen Brunson.
I can
You
list
think
some.
Brunson's that good?
No, but listen, Peyton,
We haven't had anybody else.
I'm gonna.
Raymond Felton, that's it in the last 20
You
years.
need to name some people.
I'm about to name them. They had Raymond Felton. They had Pablo Prigioni. They had old Jason Kidd.
I love
Jose
Prigioni.
Calderon.
Yeah, Jose Calderon. They had nobody at the
Shane Larkin.
Is
Derrick
Jalen Brunson much better than those guys though?
Oh
Let's
my
be
God!
honest.
Yes,
By
dude,
a lot.
I don't know.
a long shot.
Okay.
100%. But here's the thing.
Jeremy Lin. We forgot about Jeremy Lin, of course. They're like the few weeks where he was.
Yeah, what did that last? Like a month?
Hey,
Yeah,
that was a hot month.
The
Come
thing
on now.
about Brunson is like he's not going to be the missing piece to make them contend, but he might be the missing piece to at least make them a playoff team. Because think about it, 2 years ago when they had the season that nobody expected, they went 41-31, fourth seed in the East. Even that year, I mean, Randall was taking the ball up. Now you have Randall playing off the ball, and you pair a backcourt that's above average with RJ Barrett and Brunson. And, holding on to guys like Mitchell Robinson. Look, I'm not saying they're going to be good, but I think that where I would value them right now is a higher playing team, a 7 or 8.
Yeah.
They
could be a playoff
maybe a
going
6
forward in the next few years with how young and talented they can be. I want to focus back to the Cavs, though. Now, the question that I have to ask all three of you, I'll go to you first, Jacob, because you just finished about the Knicks. I'll go to you for the Cavs. Outside of, I know obviously we have the Celtics who also got Malcolm Brogdon in the offseason. They got even better. You have the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Sixers. Honestly, if they're healthy with Harden and Embiid, they can be a scary duo. Outside of those three teams, do you think the Cavs are right now the fourth best team sitting in the East above teams like Miami, Toronto, Atlanta? Like, where do you put the Cavs in terms of contention in the Eastern Conference?
I think they're in the same boat as those type of Bulls, Toronto. I think they're between a 5 and a 7. I think that I genuinely don't think they'll truly contend, because the problem with them is their strategy going into the year is obviously they have probably, aside from Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they probably have the best backcourt in the league with Garland and Mitchell. But their problem is they don't have the mid-tier guys, I think, that are going to help guard against a Jason Tatum type, a Harden and Embiid type, like you mentioned, Giannis, of course. I just don't think defensively they're going to be able to match up well enough with those top tier teams in the East. But I just think their high level of play at the guard position should be enough to have them fit 6th.
So what is the ceiling? What is the ceiling for them? Would you say maybe second round playoffs, maybe a conference finals? What would your ceiling be for them?
I think based on the nature of the conference and the fact that, we can say all these things, but the 76ers are kind of one of those teams that you just don't know about. I'd say their ceiling is an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Ceiling, absolute ceiling. Realistically, first round, they'll go 6-7 games with someone. They might grab a win, but I think second round is the most likely,
Gotcha. Peyton, go to you. What are the Cavs' ceiling? What do you see for them success-wise this season?
I mean, I can't really say it any better than Jacob. I think the second round is a fair assumption. I don't think they make it to the Eastern Conference Final, in all honesty, and I would slide them right behind a team like Miami. I think I'm with Jacob. They're in the boat of a Toronto, type of just a mid-tier team. I don't think they have anybody to defend like a true number one like Tatum, Embiid, or Harden. So I don't really see them making it to the Eastern Conference Final, but I think they could be a playoff team. But honestly, it all kind of rides on Mitchell's shoulders at the end of the day, and I don't know if he's going to be able to pull that team, that far deep into the playoffs. Again, they might steal one playoff series win, but I probably see a second round exit, in all honesty, if I had to guess.
One quick thing just to add really quick is that, like, Garland and Mitchell, as I mentioned, is a great backcourt, but both of them can't defend for their lives.
They're
both offensive-minded players. So,
how
are they going to guard Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, for example? I mean, how could they possibly guard that?
It's not even just offensively minded. They're score-first guards, both of them. They're not like Garland can play make if he needs to, but the first thing instinctively those two guys do is score the basketball. They get buckets. That's what those two guys do. So and also, before Conor, you go, The biggest weakness on that team is their small forward, because Isaac Okoro, I believe, is going to be their starting small forward. He is a decent player out of Auburn, but again, he's probably their best defender. I mean, actually, best defender on the wing, because they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, twin towers down low. Nobody's mentioned them. I think they're going to be one of the best front courts next year, because with Evan Mobley's ability to score the basketball at all three levels, he's insane defensively. Both of them can rebound the ball extremely well. They're going to be better than people think. I put them at like a 4 seed, but I agree that it would be a second round exit. I agree with what both of you guys are saying. I think if the bracket works out the way I think it will, I would expect a team like a Bucks or a Celtics to probably be there. Maybe not a Cleveland, or even a Philly again if they're healthy, because we don't even mention Tyrese Maxey. He's a bucket too. So I think Philly probably gets in there.
And a great defender.
Yeah, and he's a good defender. And Tobias Harris too. We forget about him. He's like the 4th option on that team, and he's very talented as well. And also the Cavs did lose a lot of bench depth because they gave up Markkanen and Colin Sexton. That hurts them as well. So I don't see them getting past the second round of the playoffs. But Conor, I mean, I'm sure you're probably going to echo the same thing. But
yeah, no, I was going to say that they're probably going to land in like the 5 or 6 seed. I think they're going to have a lot of growing pains also. I could see them winning 7 out of 9 and then, a like 2-week stretch where they lose like 8 of 11 or something like that. So, I think they're going to be around 500, like a little bit over 500, landing like the 5 or 6 seed.
All right. I think it might be a little bit better than that, but it's a good segue into this next topic, because we were going to talk about this last week. And of course we had technical issues, so we couldn't talk about this. None of us mentioned the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant, I know it's a little bit old news, but Kevin Durant is officially, has officially returned to Brooklyn for about a few weeks now. He's going back to Brooklyn, re-teaming up with Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. None of us mentioned the Nets as one of those teams that could be a contender next year. Part of the reason I didn't really mention them yet is because, as I've said on a previous episode, I need to see you play basketball. Like, I need to see Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons, like that round orange thing called the basketball. I need to see the 3 of them on the court for over half of the season and like playing together, the sport that they're paid to play, because we haven't seen it yet. And I don't really know what to expect from them. Because I'm not saying they don't have the potential, obviously, to be a top 3, top 2 seed in the East, be a contender for the finals, because talent-wise, they 100% do. But it's a matter of managing personalities. Is Kyrie going to dip for 3 weeks because something happens in the season? Is KD going to get hurt? Injuries have come up all the time with them. I don't know what to expect, even more so than Philly, like you mentioned, Jacob. So I'll get your thoughts. I mean, first off, reactions to KD literally throwing everything he had at them, trade demands, fire Sean Marks and Nash, or you got to trade me. And then he meets with them and is like, oh, I'll come back. Okay, like we're good. The whole summer there was turmoil. Now he's back. So reactions to that, and you can throw in what, where you think the Nets could be next year. What do you think they're going to accomplish, in the standings wise, whatever. So Peyton, give me your thoughts on the whole situation.
Honestly, I think it's a good thing for the Nets. I think you'd be crazy to say that you don't want KD on your team. Honestly, I think their success depends on if Ben Simmons can take a step up and truly turn into, even 3/4 to a half of the potential that people thought he had in the beginning of his career. On paper, they should be good. And again, I'd put them in front of a team like Miami. I'd put them in front of a team like Cleveland. It's just, again, they have to play together. They have to prove it. Nobody's seen it. But on paper, I mean, KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons should have an absolute show there in Brooklyn. They should have a great time. They should be a 4 seed to 3 seed, honestly, if they play to their potential. But it's just, will they play to their potential, and will they stay around for the entire season? And with those names, it's really, really hard to predict. But talent-wise, I mean, I put them within the top 3. I think they can compete with a team like the Celtics all day, or the Bucks. I don't think they'd have a problem competing with those teams in the playoffs or even in the regular season. I think they'll be a great team. It's just, again, prediction-wise, I don't know. I'm going to have to see it before I believe it.
We can't really predict anything because we have no idea what to expect with this team, and we haven't had that. We've had, again, uncertainty surrounding and swirling this team for 3 years. They haven't made it past semifinals yet. So
I would expect them to take a big step up, and I would expect Kyrie and KD to be on their game and to actually start for the majority of the games, because after what happened last season, if you don't, I mean, then the whole thing has to get blown up. So if they're committing,
Kyrie's going into a contract year.
Exactly.
He wants to get his money, so he needs to actually be on the damn court to be able to get his money next year.
And I think Simmons has a lot to prove. Like I said, again, if he plays well and KD and Kyrie are firing on all cylinders, that's going to be a really scary team and a tough team to match up against. But it really depends on them reaching their full potential and actually being on the floor. If they are, they're going to be a monster. But again, yet to be seen.
Jacob, I'll go to you next. I'm going to throw in this question as well. Do you consider them title contenders? Like, along with everything else you're going to, give your thoughts on, do you consider them title contenders next year, this team?
Well, first off, I'll just say I'm in the state of mind where I refuse to believe a team built on the mental aspect that this team has been built, with guys asking for trades, complaining about the coach, Kyrie's comments over the last few years. I refuse to believe a team like that can genuinely contend. I just don't believe that over the course of an entire season that they won't run into some type of problem, whether that be within the locker room problem, whether that be an injury problem. It just seems like there's a bug around that locker room. And I don't think that they're the type of team that had, because they got swept by Boston last year in the most embarrassing of ways. And you need to have a type of X factor team-wise to resound from something like that, and to be able to fight through the adversity of an embarrassing loss, a skeptical, confusing offseason, to then go into a fresh season with a lot of fresh players. They don't have like the same team that they've had. Their team kind of constantly, the bench changes very often, which was never that good in the first place. So I personally, it's possible, of course, that they contend and that they make a run, but I wouldn't put them in that top 3 bubble. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to touch on, Conor, before you go, he did say like something seems to always go wrong with this team. And as Stephen A. says, the Cowboys, it's an accident waiting to happen. This team just feels like something's always going to happen with this team, as Jacob said. But Conor, give me your thoughts.
This team is absolutely nauseating. I really just can't stand talking about them. But I mean, can they contend? I mean, you got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the team. Of course you can.
Exactly.
Will they contend?
Will they contend? Put it that way. In your mind, will they contend?
I don't know, because all of their problems are so, just like self-inflicted. Like I just feel like they just can't get out of their own way. The 2 best players don't respect the coach. They don't respect the front office. How do you expect to accomplish anything as an organization when that's the case? I just don't understand.
You can't. No. And it's that situation that's so tough with this is because none of us mentioned them. We were talking about the Cavs. But it's almost like you really can't mention them yet because, again, until you see those 3 guys on the court, see everybody healthy, you talk about like Joe Harris see all of these role players along with the actual stars of the team, see all of them play, how they all gel, how the coaching staff works with them, until you see everything, which, again, we have not seen in 3 goddamn years, which is like just mind-boggling to me. You're not going to be able to give any kind of prediction on this team, but it's worth talking about again, because after all this turmoil and all this stuff of, all these tensions with the team, I can't stand these guys, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Katie comes back now. It was just like that. It kind of, all the tensions were just eased in one meeting. It was pretty shocking to me, at least, to see that happen. Although the Nets really weren't, I don't think the Nets were going to trade him either way. I was just shocked to hear that Katie on his own accord kind of came to that choice of, oh yeah, I'd like to return. I'm fine with you guys now. It was a little bit weird after trying to fire, Sean Marks and Steve Nash, but I digress. We'll move on to the NFL. The first thing I want to get to before we look ahead to week 1, Russell Wilson got a massive extension from the Denver Broncos. He got a 5-year, $245 million extension. It includes $165 million guaranteed, which that now, in terms of guaranteed money, it is the 3rd most lucrative contract in NFL history, right behind Deshaun Watson at $230 million guaranteed and Kyler Murray at $189.5 million guaranteed. So in terms of guaranteed money, 3rd most lucrative. The first question I'm going to ask to the 3 of you, Peyton, you can go first. Is Russell Wilson with the Broncos worth this contract at this point in his career?
Absolutely. Broncos country, let's ride. I mean, put money on their guy. I mean, why would they not pay him? I think 5 years is a good timetable. By the end of his contract, he might be suffering a little bit in terms of his completion percentage and his, how good he is deep down the field. But for now, with Judy and Sutton out there, come on now. I mean, who would you rather have at quarterback? I'd be hard pressed to find a guy that you'd want. Besides, I'm sure we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson, but I mean, it's not that much money for, a guy like Russ, that caliber of a player who's been to a Super Bowl. Like if Kyler and Deshaun are, if Kyler and Deshaun are getting more guaranteed money than that, then yes, it was absolutely worth it. And again, at 5 years, I think it's a good number. What is Brady, 46, 47 years old? Russ is going to be 40. I think he takes care. I mean, if anybody takes care of his body besides Tom Brady, it's Russell Wilson. He's been around for the longest, and he's played at the highest level for the longest. So, yeah, I love it. I love it for the Broncos. I think it's a good look.
Jacob, is he worth the money at this point in his career?
I also lean towards yes. I've always had the utmost respect for Wilson. I mean, he's a true competitor. I think that he's one of those guys that probably, given the situation that the team had put him in the last few years, probably deserved to be a little better in terms of playoff appearances, team didn't really help him out very much. I mean, you could just watch that Seahawks team dwindle slowly to where they are now, which is a bottom feeder. You know, I'm going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. So I always thought Wilson was worth it, and especially I think considering, I mean, pay grade has a lot to do with it. What other guys get, and I mean, a Kyler Murray is. I just think Wilson's a Kyler Murray with more of a head on his shoulders and more of a respect and a trust. So I think it's reasonable.
Conor, thoughts on the deal? Was he worth it?
Absolutely. I mean, guy wins the Super Bowl, looking for another. Broncos want to lock him up, and they got him for not only the 5 years, but the 7 because of the 2 he still has remaining.
Exactly, yeah, because he still has two left on his prior deal with the Seahawks. So they added on top of that. It's going to be till I believe through 2028 into 2029. So yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I don't have an issue with it because of how much guarantee, especially even with the guaranteed money. I don't have an issue with it because Kyler and Deshaun are getting more, and I could argue Russell Wilson is better than both of them. And you could even look at the fact that in Seattle, in years he probably shouldn't have, I believe he had like the most winning seasons in a row for the start of his career. He had never had a losing season. I believe he was drafted in 2013, 2014. He had never, 2012. He had never had a losing season up until 2018, 2019. Up until that point.
I think he was also up there in most consecutive starts from the beginning.
It was most wins.
I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, and his first and within his first 3 seasons, he won a Super Bowl and went to 2 of them. And again, he did have a Legion of Boom, but he was still an extremely talented quarterback. And he went to a team that didn't have these big Doug Baldwin and Jermaine Kearse were not big name phenomenal receivers. Jermaine Kearse was an undrafted
Doug Baldwin is a dog.
He is. I'm just saying that before Russell Wilson got there, these guys were not household names. You talk about them, Tyler Lockett. These guys are household names. Very much in part because of what Russell Wilson brought to that team. So I have no issue with the deal. Peyton, you kind of read my mind here. How does this affect Lamar Jackson's contract negotiations now?
I don't know. I'm really worried. I'm very worried about Lamar because if he doesn't get paid and then he goes out there, I don't know. Again, we talk about this all the time with players representing themselves, and with this whole Lamar situation, it's making the Ravens look bad. It's making Lamar look slightly foolish. I don't know if Kyler Murray is getting, 187 you said guaranteed? If he's getting 187 guaranteed, then Lamar is worth $200 million guaranteed. I think the Deshaun Watson contract was desperation from Cleveland's end. I think anybody that watches football could see that from a mile away. They're just desperate. But I mean, if Kyler's getting 180, then Deshaun's going to want 200. Lamar's going to want 200. But I don't know. I mean, if he doesn't get paid before week 1, if I was his agent, which I don't know if he even has an agent, I would tell him to sit. But I highly, highly, highly doubt that Lamar Jackson will sit out. So if he doesn't get paid and he ends up getting hurt, I feel for the guy because he deserves his bag. If I was him, I wouldn't get out on the field until I got my bag. I don't know if this Russell contract really affects his deal at all, to be honest. I think it's below what he's asking for in the first place. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how much he's going to get. If I was him and they offered me 190, I'd take it. If they've offered me 180, I would take it. I would just get his money. I just hope that he takes his guaranteed money and gets on the field and doesn't go out there without a contract. Because again, if he gets hurt, I don't know.
This is what Lamar came out and said, though. He said if they don't get a deal done by week 1, which is in about 2.5 days now, and likelihood is they're probably not going to get it done in the next 2.5 days. If it's not done by week 1, he's cutting off contract talks until the next point when they can discuss it again, which I believe is in February or March, around that time. So he's going to cut it off in 2.5 days if he doesn't get a deal. And to answer the question, he does not have an agent. He's representing himself. So it's a very, very kind of weird situation. But Jacob, do you think this deal really affects what could happen for Lamar Jackson? Does it impact it at all in terms of setting the market, or what do you think?
I think obviously it's a very different situation, but for the Ravens to be stingy in this, I couldn't see why. Because I feel like Lamar Jackson is not only a great player for them, he's also just their trademark. I mean, their offense is completely run and can only be run through him. And it's been extremely successful. I mean, last year, what'd they go? They went 0-6 when he didn't play or whatever it was. And they still won 9 or 10 games. I mean, it's like if you want to contend every year, then he's got to be your quarterback, because if he's not, then you have to change everything. It changes the entire setup of their team, which has worked very well. So I give him his money. Peyton, I don't know how anyone could turn down 190 million.
That's where I'm at. If they offer him 190 million, he doesn't take it and he still plays, I'm gonna be honest, he's a moron. Like,
Yeah,
you
that would
can't.
be
He's representing himself though, and the thing too that Jacob brought up, the Ravens. You remember in his MVP year when the Ravens went 14-2 and he was the best player in football. That the read option, like the read option offense, the Ravens, like we had never. And I know we've had rushing quarterbacks like Michael Vick and guys in the past. We had never seen anything like what we saw that year in that Ravens, the way they were scheming their offense and how good Lamar Jackson was in terms of timing of holding that ball to the last possible second and making split decisions. And being able to read defenses, knowing when to give the ball off to the running back, knowing when to keep it. And he knows how to run that offense. And like Jacob said, the Ravens will literally have to retool and recreate their entire offense because they have no outside weapons besides Mark Andrews. Rashad Bateman, okay, yeah, but their entire team is focused on the run game and defense. If they don't keep him and he ends up leaving, after this year and becomes their unrestricted free agent, they can't afford to lose him, and locking him up right now would be the smart thing to do. But again, we'll see what happens with him heading into the season. Hopefully he gets his money in the next 2.5 days. From the reports I've read about on ESPN and everywhere else, seems pretty unlikely at this point, but we're hoping for Lamar to get his money. The guy 100% deserves it. He's an MVP, no question about it. We'll move on. Again, we were going to talk about this topic last week. Unfortunately, again, the connection issue is too much to handle, but we're going to bring it up now. The NFL Top 100 list voted on by the players. I need to, I just don't know why they, I guess they think it's good TV, good ratings or whatever, but can the players just shut up and stick to playing football because they don't know how to rate at all? The amount of bias first off, the bias that goes into this list is one thing. Second, they just don't understand, I think, how lists are supposed to work, because I understand, and I'm going to read out some of the order in terms of, who went where. You talk about Aaron Donald, right? He's a great defender. I'm not saying he's not. He's phenomenal. We're probably going to go down as the best defensive player of all time. They ranked him second. And they ranked the defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, who now holds, with Michael Strahan, the all-time sack record for a single season. Oh, they put him at 6. You're going to tell me he's not top 5? And it's based on last season, keep in mind, 2022. So TJ Watt is not top 5, but Aaron Donald is. Okay. Tom Brady gets number 1. I feel like this is just okay, he retired, came back, let's give him number 1. I know he put up great stats last year, but come on. I don't get how we put Tom Brady number 1 right now. Aaron Rodgers, 2-time back-to-back MVP. He gets 3rd place both years. Okay, that makes a ton of sense, guys. Jonathan Taylor, number 5. Again, should not have been over TJ Watt. I'm going to go lower down the list. Josh Allen's not top 10. I really think they must have smoked a massive amount of marijuana before going on the show. There's no possible.
Wow.
They don't rank. They rank Jalen Ramsey above Josh Allen, Myles Garrett above Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, who missed 9 games last year, above Josh Allen.
Hey, Derrick Henry was top 10 running back with 8
I
games
understand, but listen, you cannot not put Josh Allen top 10 over.
No,
those
Josh Allen was bad. You know what's the worst? You know what the worst is? I'm going to be honest. The worst is the fact that Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford were both not on the top 100 last year. And now they're, now everybody, Matt's been
based off that season. I agree with the Cooper Kupp.
But if you go, yeah, sure. But Matt Stafford's never been on the top 100. Never.
No, he's been on it before, not last year.
I don't think. Oh my God!
No, I'm pretty sure he's been on it before, but
I don't think he's been on it very highly. And the way they were talking about those guys, Matt's been doing it for years, and he just needed to switch up, and he's always been one of the best. It's you guys don't rank him anywhere near the top 50 when he's playing on the Lions. But if you watch Matt Stafford's highlight tape, even when he wasn't, he didn't have a good O-line, he didn't have a good receivers around him.
He was still phenomenal.
Well, he was throwing the prettiest ball in the league for years and years and years, and nobody ever ranks him. And now all of a sudden he's the top 30. It's okay.
The last thing I want to, Peyton, I just want to say one more thing before I give it to all 3 of you guys, because I can go on about this forever. Micah Parsons above Justin Jefferson, that makes no sense. And then Trayvon Diggs is 23, and AJ Terrell's not on the list.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Come on. I get it with the goddamn interceptions. I understand. They ranked him above Jamar Chase. How do you rank him above Jamar Chase? I'm sorry. These players literally have lost their goddamn minds. I'm gonna give it to you guys, but I'm about to blow a fuse. How is they ranked Trayvon Diggs the 3rd best cornerback in the NFL last year? 3rd best. 3rd. How? Like, I don't get that. But just go ahead. I can't even with this anymore. I don't.
I don't like when players who have one great season just automatically like take over. Like Tino, I know you're like freaking out right now, but like I completely agree with you. I'm just like, for the guys early in the top 10, I can see it because they've had that track record that spans over decades, like Rodgers and Donald and Brady and those guys. But Trayvon Diggs being 23.
Dude, Micah Parsons was 16.
You're 16.
Yeah.
Roquan Smith was
You did say that it was based on last year.
Yeah, he went nuts. He did go
Okay,
nuts.
it's 16
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
I mean, he was the best linebacker in the league last year.
Yeah, numbers wise.
TJ Watt's a linebacker. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, middle linebacker, whatever.
All right.
Half the time he's a DN.
No, man. Like, it's just.
Well, you put him wherever the hell you want. He's an unreal player.
I mean, all right, a guy like Devin White's at 64, and I know it's based on last season, but like Devin White's
dude, like, come on.
Devin White's at you tell me Roquan Smith is 84, and
my biggest problem with the list is that Justin Tucker didn't crack the top 25.
Yo, that's a fact though. Justin Tucker's got ice in his veins.
I don't even think he was number 100, I think, right? Or was he even on the list?
91.
No, he's 94.
Can I talk about my most aggravating? Trey Hendrickson at 78. What the hell are we smoking? Trey Hendrickson is a god. That's absolutely insane. Yeah. Tyrann Mathieu in the top 100. Still today. Tyrann Mathieu. How is Justin Simmons 81 and Tyrann Mathieu 70? Who's the better safety? You tell me right now. Yeah, exactly. Like if you ask
safety in football,
you could literally ask any GM, any coach in the league, who would you rather have in your team right now, Justin Simmons or Tyrann Mathieu? And like even Trayvon Diggs and Trey Hendrickson. I'd take Trey Hendrickson over Trey. And I know the different positions, but Trey Hendrickson's at 78 and Trayvon Diggs is at 23. You got to be kidding me.
I'll give you something that's even worse, Peyton. Marshawn Lattimore's at 89.
Yeah, that was
and
bad.
Trayvon Diggs is 23.
Lattimore had a bad season last year, but in terms of like career stats, it's not even close.
Bro, Lattimore is just okay. I wouldn't say Lattimore had a bad year last year. Lattimore just didn't have 13 goddamn interceptions. I guess it's all about the interceptions. If you have 11 of them, I'll give you number 23. Like, and the other thing too, why they are so they like, oh man, they ride Aaron. They ride Aaron Donald to the point where it's just like, guys,
he's the best of all time. The best of all time.
22 and a half sacks.
Yeah. TJ Watt got snuffed.
Like not top 5.
No, Jonathan Taylor should not have been top 5.
Yeah, I don't think he was top. I mean, dude, like, over Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes had like a year last year, but still. And question though. So none of you are aggravated by the fact that Rodgers won 2 MVPs and didn't get at least top 2 one time?
No.
Nope. Okay,
Conor,
why? Because I know we've been like talking a lot. Why? Why should he not be top 2 at least one of these years?
I don't know. I mean, look at his playoff record over the past couple of years there.
Oh no. I don't know.
You did not just go there. Come on. That's a low blow, buddy. Come on, man. Dude, whatever.
Tino, we're talking Jordan versus Scotty. This is Jordan versus Scotty.
Also, I wanted to ask one more thing. Burrow at 21 and Justin Herbert at 40. What do we think about that?
No, I don't like that.
Herbert's 19 spots below. I'm listening. Burrow, ask anyone. I love Joe Burrow. Herbert's 19 spots lower than him. Herbert threw 5,000 yards last year. He was like one of the best quarterbacks. He was top 5 quarterback last year.
100%.
He should have been above Matt Stafford. I get Stafford was a Super Bowl champion, but he didn't win the MVP or anything. He was trying to give that game. He
should have been in that realm, in that 20 to 30.
Should all be in the 20s. I'd say.
Yeah. Dude, Joe Mixon was 38. That's like that. That's high.
You think that's high for Joe Mixon?
Above last Herbert, year? I think
no,
so.
above relative to where Herbert spotted at, sure. But I think Mixon's a top 50 player, top 40. I don't mind top 40 at all for Joe Mixon.
From last season because it was his best year of his career.
1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, whatever it was. That's pretty good.
All right, so I guess last year we can give him that. But like they
What? Can I bring up some preseason performers?
Yeah, we can do that. Go ahead.
I just got a couple. Romeo Doubs, 8 receptions, 82 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 3 games. Looking pretty good over there in Green Bay. My guy Damian Pierce had 11 total carries this preseason, 86 yards and a touchdown, 7.8 yards per carry. Looks to be the bell cow over there in Houston. So, honestly, could be a little
fantasy pickup, too.
Yeah, just for my fantasy guys out there. Kyle Hamilton, my boy, 53 coverage snaps in the preseason, 0 catches allowed. Hello. George Pickens, 8 receptions, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Might take over wide receiver 2 over there in Pittsburgh. And my guy Kenny Pickett with 3 touchdown passes during the preseason and an extremely high passer percentage.
Yep.
Looks to be a
Double
problem.
gloves.
Hey,
Brian
where's the
What?
sauce? He didn't
I don't
go
like
out
so.
with
No,
Target.
no.
He didn't
Brian,
go out with Target.
shout out Brian Robinson recovering
30
from.
snaps.
Let's talk
He
about
didn't
Brian
get targeted.
Jacob. Brian Robinson got shot. It was very bad, but he's fine. Apparently no big structural damage to his body, which is fantastic because he seems to be a bell cow in an offense with Carson Wentz. Do I see a little bit of Jonathan Taylor 2.0 vibes with Brian Robinson? Slightly. I kind of hate Antonio Gibson. I think he's god-awful. He should not be a running back. He was a wide receiver in college. He literally can't run the ball, and he fumbles every other possession.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson, scary dark horse as well. If he comes back from this whole shooting incident sooner rather than later, hope he quick recovery. Sorry about all that. Don't mean to be disrespectful. James Cook, I have him written down just because he had some amazing jump cuts. I don't know if he's related to Dalvin, but he runs like he is, and he's on a Bills second round pick was on a Bills offense that is extremely good. So watch out for James Cook. And last, career alum F. Gardner. Sauce is great guy, but career alum looked really good in the preseason. I think he slides into that number 2 cornerback spot in Buffalo, and again, another dark horse to be a really, really, really good cornerback DB for the Buffalo Bills this year. So
I want to touch on one thing you said. You said George Pickens could slide in that 2 spot. I look at him as a guy who could take Claypool's 1 spot right.
Deontay Johnson is the one, my friend.
Oh shoot! I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I think he could even get up there with Deontay Johnson year 1, bro. Pickens is nasty.
I feel like he's more of a true X than Deontay Johnson is, but Deontay Johnson creates an insane amount of separation off the line.
He does. I'm just saying that George Pickens he's going to be like.
I think he'll take
1A, 1B kind of thing with those two.
Yeah, I think he'll take over in terms of receptions and just overall usage. I think he'll take Claypool's spot. I don't think Claypool's going to get many looks this season. Freiermuth's also obviously there. So
that's a good
if Kenny can keep up what he's been doing in the preseason, then Connor's pick for rookie of the year looks pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie.
Trubisky is going to be starting week 1. They did announce that he's on the depth chart as the QB1 for the first game against the Bengals.
Pickett is or Trubisky?
No, Trubisky.
Yeah. No, I think Trubisky will start the first 4, and then Pickett will slide in around game 5.
Yeah, it'll depend on how they start out, especially too. If they're sluggish 1-3, possibly even 0-4, then Pickett will definitely get a shot at it for sure.
For sure.
But we'll see what happens with that. But we're gonna go just now to the NFL season starting. It's again 2.5 days away. Thursday, September 8th. We got Bills, Rams. Dude, this is gonna be a phenomenal, and this is probably one of the best week 1, or like just week 1 opening games that we've had in a while. We had the Bucks and the Cowboys last year, and it was, Dak's return. It was cool, but we got last year's Super Bowl champion against this year's Super Bowl favorites. This is going to be a great game. I'm super excited for it. Any, predictions, Jacob? Anything you might, want to look for in this game? Expectations? What are your thoughts?
Well, what a start for the NFL season. I just want to say last year was literally regular season wise, one of the most entertaining we've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And I think this sets the tone for one just as good. I think you have the 2 best teams in each conference playing each other. I think that where's the game, by the way?
LA.
Game's in LA. Wow. It's gonna be great. LA by a score.
Who would you got?
LA by a score.
LA by a score. All right. Peyton, what are your thoughts on this game? What are you looking for?
Well, wow is all I got to say. Just wow. Big wow. I go Bills by 1 million. I think the Rams are not going to be as good as everybody thinks they are this year. To be honest.
15-2, my friend.
Why so?
Why no?
Why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. Stafford's elbows. That's one thing. First off, I think everybody has a full year of film on them at this point, so it's not going to be as easy to find those, that quick timing stuff with Kupp. I don't think he's going to be able to use Kupp as much. Kupp's probably going to get double covered a lot more. Allen Robinson's good, but is he?
Bobby Wagner too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it. I think it's Bills' year. I think Bills are pissed off and they have something to prove. And again, I think their defense is just really, really, really good. And I think that's the main point I want to make. I think the Rams are going to just have an underwhelming start against that Bills defense. I think the Bills defense are going to come out and punch them in the mouth, and it's probably going to be a pretty handed Bills victory. I would say Bills by 2 scores probably.
I agree the Bills are going to take it, but Conor, what do you think? Thoughts on this game?
Statement victory at the Bills on Thursday.
Same, I think so too.
I'm thinking 33-27. So
I like that.
Give me close.
I think the Bills have a high-scoring offense. They're going to be able to do some things against LA. I expect Bills to win that game. I think Josh Allen's going to come out and just say, you don't want. All right, listen, Piers, you don't want to rank me top 10. All right, I'm going to come out and show you I'm top 10. Move on to some other big storylines. Russell Wilson is making his return.
Hey, listen,
Russell Wilson making his return in Seattle against the Seahawks on Monday Night Football with new commentators Joe Buck and Troy Aikman now moving over to ESPN.
Woo!
It'll be fun on Monday nights, but. Thoughts on this game too? Russ returning to Seattle. Are the fans? What will the fans' reaction be? Is it going to be one of those, like crowds booing him, saying, "Oh, screw you, you left us," whatever. We traded, whatever. Is it going to be that, or is it going to be a welcome home, like, "Oh, Russ, thank you for everything you did for us," that kind of thing? What do you?
If they don't give him a standing ovation, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Seattle fans are gonna bend over and let Russ just put his thumb right in their butt. That's what it's gonna be. You know what I mean? They're gonna happily get smashed by their former quarterback. They're gonna love every second of it. They're gonna scream for him like he's throwing the ball. 5
touchdowns out of Russ.
Yeah, and they're gonna be louder for the Broncos than they would have been for the Seahawks because now it's the Geno Smith show. So oh my God, I don't even know what else to say.
This is a 30-3 game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is like the first Monday Night Football game is not going to be a good one. That's for sure.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Pete Carroll's going to be he's going to be smiling like tears of joy, like he's not going to know how to feel, it's just going to be a whole mix up of emotions for all Seattle fans. But they're not going to boo him. There's no way. Yeah. No way they boo him.
Some other storylines too. We'll talk about the 49ers. Jimmy G now is returning to the team. There were a lot of trade rumors, surrounding him as well. He's coming back on a restructured 1-year contract for about like $6.5 million, I think it was. So he's returning, but they're still going to be starting Trey Lance. Conor, how much more pressure is now on Trey Lance to now maintain the starting job and not give this up to Jimmy G, who is now still there as a backup and a guy who just doesn't seem to lose many games?
I think that's sort of the good thing about having a guy like Jimmy around for Trey Lance still. Like he can mentor him for one more year and show him, what he's got to do to be successful. Yeah, obviously Jimmy's going to want to play, but, I don't think it's going to be a distraction for, Trey Lance to go out there and do his thing and hopefully lead the 49ers to the playoffs.
Yeah, Jacob, what do you think about Trey Lance?
Well, it's interesting because depending on the player, I think it's always alternating whether that's a good thing or not, to have that other guy there. Do you tell the young guy, here's the keys to the team, or do you say, hey, if you don't play well, this won't be your team for long?
Yeah,
I think it definitely, I personally do think it puts a bit of pressure on Lance because I think that even though Lance is very young, he'll feel like kind of shadowed now. I don't know if Jimmy G is he has a lot of experience, but I don't know if he's like that utmost like mentor type guy. Cause first off, I don't know if they have really any similarities to their game at all. First off. And second off, I just don't know if the two of them are going to have this great relationship necessarily. I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to have beef, but I don't know if Jimmy's going to be really happy at this stage of his career to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
So I even though no one else really wanted him, so he kind of has to be happy with it. I just don't know I think he definitely does have the mental capacity to sit back and say, all right, this is going to be my role, but I don't know if he's going to be happy about it.
Yeah. Peyton, what are your thoughts on this?
I guess it puts more pressure on Lance to perform. At the end of the day, I just see him as almost like that security blanket because I think the 49ers are going to let Lance run wild this year and try to just get the most out of him that they can. So if he ends up getting hurt, obviously, who would you rather have as a backup than Jimmy G? I think he's a great backup option. I agree with Jacob that at this point in his career, it might be hard for him to swallow that pill of okay, I'm back on the bench with the clipboard. But at the end of the day, nobody else really wanted him. He's on a good team that should contend for a playoff spot. But yeah, I think it does put more pressure on Lance, but I think he'll perform. I don't think there's much chance that, barring injury, I don't think Trey Lance loses his job unless he really goes out there and lays a goose egg, which I don't see happening. So, probably yes, added pressure, but if anything, good pressure, like Jacob said, just a solid person to have kind of shadowing you, and just always that in the back of your head, I have somebody else that can perform at a high level. So, again, I don't think it does much besides add a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I think Trey Lance is going to be a boomer. It's going to be a boomer bust thing for the 49ers this year. I think they have the potential to be a Super Bowl contender or have the potential to go 6-11 and miss the playoffs. Or again, they can go 10-7 and be a 6 or 7 seed. It could be any one of those, but they're the biggest boomer bust, meaning the crazy potential or just shit in the bed, not being able to do anything. And part of it is too, Trey Lance, in my opinion, I think him and Jalen Hurts are going to be two guys that are going to be extremely, when I say this, I mean extremely dark horse MVP candidates, like not guys you're going to look at, but have the potential where if they really truly ball out, they can be guys that are going to be looked at and talked about in that conversation. Because as we continue to go on through the years in the NFL, it always seems like more and more guys get thrown into the MVP conversation every single year. So I'm saying there's a chance of it, a very low chance, but they're dark horse MVP candidates in my eyes. I want to move on to two quarterbacks who lost their star targets, Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Jacob, which star quarterback do you think is going to miss their favorite target more? Will Mahomes miss Tyreek, or is Rodgers going to miss Adams more heading into the season?
Well, that's a good question. I think that there's a better chance that Kansas City is able to recreate, not necessarily a Tyreek Hill because there is no other Tyreek Hill, but production-wise, I think that the additions that they have, so they have Kelsey in the middle still, of course, and now they have a bunch of really speedy guys on the end. If they can kind of recreate the feel of the offense that they had with Hill, obviously it'll look different. But, they have Sky Moore, they have the new guy, they got MVS, correct?
Yeah, and Juju.
Juju. So I think that the combination of those guys can give more similarity to what there was before rather than losing Davante Adams, because I think losing Davante Adams is just the most massive of deals for a team to lose him, because I just think that he is just such an X factor, even more so than Hill.
Yeah.
So I would say that Davante is the bigger loss, but I think the Packers could totally still be really good too, but I think they'll have a harder job recovering from the loss than Kansas City will.
Conor, who's gonna miss their star target more?
I feel like it is going to be Rodgers, but I won't be surprised if it's Mahomes at first, because, we would have those games where Tyreek Hill would have like 200 yards receiving
and like 3 touchdowns.
And Kansas City gets that one ginormous play from him, and then that's where they take off. It might take a little bit more for them to start taking off in games, and they're going to be more like tightly contested games. But throughout the stretch of the season, I expect it to be the Packers, especially in the playoffs. But to start the season, I think it's going to be Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Peyton, who's going to miss it more?
It's really hard. I was leaning towards Mahomes is going to miss Hill more than Rodgers is going to miss Adams. But at the end of the day, I kind of have to agree that Adams brings a different level of X factor besides just speed. And I'm not saying that Tyreek Hill is purely a deep threat, but Adams brings so much to the table in terms of durability and how many times Rodgers force-fed him the ball, and he just seemed to come down with it from every route. So I have to go with Adams. But again, I think it's very much what Jacob said. It's up to the teams to recreate that presence of a player. And I think that both teams have, like Jacob said, with the Chiefs, they have MVS, who's a speedster. They have Sky Moore, who's a speedster. Even Mecole Hardman, who can run extremely fast. And with the Packers, they have Christian Watson from the draft. They have Romeo Doubs, who's played extremely well. They still have Allen Lazard, who's a good receiver. I don't think that he's proven he could be a number one, but I would have to say Adams just for the pure fact that I think he's overall a better receiver and a bigger threat than Tyreek Hill is.
And the Chiefs took MVS from the Packers, which kind of hurts them. I'm going to go with Mahomes. For the main reason I'm going to say this is because I think that Patrick Mahomes, we're going to have to see a growth in him this season of being able to, instead of just kind of, because there were a lot of games, like Conor said, where Tyreek would go off, but there were also a lot of games where Mahomes could just drop back 14 steps out of the pocket and then nothing else is there. All right, I'm going to play some backyard football, hawk this ball up 50 yards, and then Tyreek's just going to go get it somewhere. That's kind of the feel that offense had for a while. We're going to have to, and I'm not saying we're not going to see it because it's Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying we're going to see a quarterback that actually has to go through his progressions, go through his reads a lot more, read defenses a lot better, not be able to just take deep shots, methodically drive down the field more so than having those deep shots. And he also loses that ability because, Peyton, you were saying Davante Adams is more of a threat. I agree Davante's bigger, but Davante Adams can't do what Tyreek did in that playoff game where he caught a slant route for 10 yards and took it 60 to the house against the Bills.
But Juju Smith-Schuster can do that, and he's done it before.
I don't, not the way Tyreek can. I'm just saying.
Not the same level of speed, but Juju's taking 97. He's taking a 3-yard, look at his longest touchdown. He's taking 90-plus yard touchdowns.
Peyton, I get it. You're saying Davante is a bigger threat. Davante is better, but Tyreek was the biggest weapon, biggest threat in the NFL for however many years for the pure fact that once he got the ball in his hands, it was almost like you virtually could not do anything about it. So and I agree, Devontae's a better route runner, but my whole thing is without that ability, especially at the start, but I think it will take a while for Mahomes to adjust. Without that backyard football, like just knowing that you have that guy somewhere down the field where you can just chuck that thing and he could probably go get it somewhere. I know Adams was the same way, but I look at it as Mahomes has never not had Tyreek. Rodgers has not had Devontae and still been the most talented quarterback in the NFL for years and years, years and years on end. We have not seen Mahomes without Tyreek, so I need to see it before I can say Rodgers is going to miss Adams more than Mahomes is going to miss Tyreek Hill, because we've seen Rodgers do it with guys like Jeff Janis and like Randall Cobb being his best receiver. I think Mahomes is going to miss him more. It's very close. I'm not saying Rodgers won't miss Adams. Obviously, he's going to. He's the best receiver. He's been the best receiver in football for like 3-4 years. But I think Mahomes is going to miss Tyreek a little bit more than Rodgers will miss Adams, in my opinion. We'll move on, though. Baker Mayfield, another debut against a former team. It's not going to be in Cleveland. It will be at home in Carolina, but he's making his debut week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. Jacob, thoughts on this game? Do you expect Baker to come out, have like a revenge game, I guess, if you want to call it that? What are your expectations for Baker's debut in Carolina against the Browns?
Well, if you saw in his press conference when they asked him, he said, "I want to F them up." So
Yeah,
that shows you how he feels. But in general, I always felt as though Baker's intensity could go one of two ways. It could be phenomenal or it could be absolutely treacherous and abysmal. The Browns are not a very good team. So there's definitely the potential that he goes off in a statement game. But I really don't see this being a very high-scoring game. I think that he'll have chances down the stretch to make big plays to put them in the chance to win, but I see this as a low-scoring game. I think a 2017, 17-14 type game. I think both teams have a lot of question marks on offense and defense, so I can't see either team running away with it. I do think based on the quarterback situation that Carolina is probably a little bit better suited to win that game, and they're at home. So I would value them probably to win, but again, I don't think he's going to have any huge performance, most likely.
Conor, thoughts on his debut against Cleveland?
I think that if Deshaun Watson was playing, then it would be considered a statement game. But because you got Jacoby Brissett there and the team's really not that good, then I mean, he should just go out there and handle business, just like it's any other. I mean, obviously he's going to want to play well and win the game, but if the starter that they traded for and locked up long-term over you was playing, I think that would be more of a statement game rather than what it's going to end up being.
Most definitely, Peyton.
I would agree. With McCaffrey there as well, it's like you're going to lean on the run most heavily, and it's probably going to be both sides of the ball.
The backfield too.
Maybe he gets a dump off to McCaffrey that ends up getting to the house, but in terms of him spreading the ball out and really airing it out, I highly, highly doubt it. And I see that from both sides of the field, Cleveland and Carolina. So I would agree.
Run heavy with Nick Chubb.
Of course. But that's what I mean. It's probably going to be a run back and forth game. Like, again, I agree with Conor and Jacob. If Watson was out there, it'd be much more of a statement game, and you'd have a lot more to play against. And Cleveland might have a better offensive outing, so you'd have to throw the ball. But realistically, with Brissett on the other side of the field, and you still have Nick Chubb there, Cleveland's going to be running the ball. Carolina should be able to win this game handedly. So, again, it should be mostly McCaffrey. I don't see a big game for Baker, but hopefully they come out with a win. I would also predict that the Panthers are going to win this game. Not by much. It should be low scoring. And, again, I don't really see either team airing the ball out very much.
Yeah, I think Baker, I see him coming out and having a decent game. I think he will play pretty well. And I'm not surprised of what he said in the press conference saying, he's going to fuck his team up, his former team up, I should say. That's how Baker's always been from the jerking off symbol on the sideline in college when he did it at Oklahoma, from the point when he took the Oklahoma flag, stamped it in the the middle of the OSU field. Sorry Jacob for that, but like Baker kind of killed you guys in that game, but basically kind of that's always been Baker. Baker has that kind of attitude. And I'm not surprised he said that in the press conference. And I expect Baker to come out with that attitude of, I'm going to come out and I'm going to mess you guys up. I'm going to have a phenomenal game. I think he could go out there and probably have, because remember, they have DJ Moore still. They have they have Robbie Anderson, who's decent. With McCaffrey utilizing him in the pass game, I think Baker could go out there for like 200-something yards, maybe a touchdown or two, not turn the ball over. I could see that happening for Baker.
The only way he throws over 200 yards is if he gets 2 screen passes to McCaffrey that go over 50 yards.
But again, that's part of their offense, though, so I wouldn't be very surprised.
Yeah, but is that really big? Like, he could have good numbers. Like, he could have a good game. But is he going to be airing the ball out, throwing deep passes to DJ Moore? And
not airing it out, but I expect him being healthy for the first time in about a year, over a year.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go out there, and I think we're going to see good passes from him. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy.
No,
I don't think he's going to go out there and go. I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Rodgers and go out there and hawk the ball 50 yards down the field, throw 3. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if the 200 yards that he passes for don't just come off dump offs to McCaffrey. They could be from slant routes from DJ, post route. Like they could be from other aspects of the game outside.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if he threw for sub 200 yards and 2 picks and no touchdowns. And they won the game purely based off of
that's part of what Baker is.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like again, if he throws, I highly doubt that he'll throw extremely accurate passes deep down the field. If he can get McCaffrey on a couple dump offs and screens and get big yardage plays out of that, then sure, his numbers might look fine. But is he going to air the ball out? Highly doubt it.
All right, so we'll move on. I just was curious about those little topics. Like those are kind of the headline things heading into week 1. I want to go to baseball. We were going to talk about this last time. This is the last thing we're going to do. Julio Rodriguez, the rookie sensation for the Seattle Mariners, got a massive extension from the Mariners. The deal, so I'm going to read all this off my phone because from MLB insider Jeff Passan, there's a lot of intricacies within this contract, so I want to say like all of it and specify it to make sure that I get it all correct. So per MLB insider Jeff Passan, the deal for Rodriguez could be either for 8 years, 13 years, 16 years, or 18 years. It guarantees Rodriguez $210 million no matter what. If the deal maxes out and goes for the full length, it will be the largest ever, making him $470 million guaranteed. The base of the deal is for 8 years, $120 million. It includes this season and runs through 2029. After 2028, the Mariners must decide whether to pick up a team option. The size and length of the contract depends on Rodriguez's performance in MVP voting for that season. That's way in the future, though. The team option is for 8 or 10 years on top of the original deal. So depending on how Rodriguez fares in MVP voting wins, I should say, it can finish in the range anywhere from $200 to $350 million. If the Mariners pick up the option, Rodriguez's guarantee in the deal is at least $320 million. If the Mariners don't pick up that option in 2028 after year 7, Rodriguez has a player option that he can exercise after year 8 for 5 years, $90 million. Thus, the 13-year structure and $210 million floor. He could turn it down and hit free agency right before his 30th birthday too. That could be an outcome. Now, after all of that, I know it's like a lot of just kind of, blah, 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 jumbled gibberish, but the likeliest outcome that Jeff Passan sees happening is Rodriguez is a Seattle Mariner through 2037 and makes at least $320 million. So he sees the outcome where the Mariners pick up his team option and he gets his full guaranteed money, gets the $470 million total, probably much more even. He could get more than that, but again, if he turns out to be a monster, the Mariners likely will pick up the team option because I don't see them getting somebody that's more talented than him. My main thing I wanted to ask, though, is the guy hasn't even finished a whole season yet in the MLB. They're paying him this much money and putting all of these intricacies and all of these little nitpicking things in his contract. Conor, why would he get this big of a deal already without even finishing a full season and going through the postseason, which they likely will be in? Why would they give him this deal?
No, it's a desperation move out of the Mariners. They haven't made the playoffs in 20 years. They're having their best season in over 20 years, and they want to lock up their guy. But, he's a rookie, and there's a lot of ifs that come after this year. He's already been out for an extended period of time this year with injury. I know he's got 20 homers, 20 steals, all that stuff. Put up a great show in the home run derby, but it's his rookie year. You can't pay a dude this much money after your rookie year. I just don't really understand.
But he hasn't even completed his rookie year yet. And
exactly. Yeah. No, I know.
It gets a little iffy. But Jacob, thoughts on this deal? Too much? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think along with the physical play, I think that franchise is just dying to have somebody be the face of it.
Yeah,
they haven't had anyone since the early 2000s with Ken Griffey and A-Rod and Edgar Martinez and that
Ichiro, yeah.
Since then, Ichiro too, and since then they haven't had anyone. So I think they're probably dying for a guy that's going to make them money. Also,
Facts.
It's a good market, but it's not a great market. So I think their thought is if we get a perennial all-star that wins even one MVP in the next 10 years, it was probably worth it just to have him on their team. So.
and the Seahawks losing Russell Wilson too, it gives kind of, I guess, almost a state.
I definitely think it has something to do with it. I think
it
that
gives
Really?
a sports face, because they lost Russ,
Yeah.
the Supersonics, when they had KD for like a year or two, but he wasn't KD back
I mean,
then.
how many people are going to buy? They don't have a single other jersey to buy.
That
They
Yeah.
don't
exactly.
have a football
That's
jersey or a baseball jersey, and they don't have a
I mean,
baseball.
DK Metcalf probably gets pretty good jersey sales out
No,
there.
he's there. I'm just saying, like, in terms of a face, I would consider
Yeah.
Julio and how he plays more of a face than DK, because I don't
Yeah.
consider DK even top 10. So you know what I
And
mean?
they don't
That's
have
why.
a basketball team either, so they
Exactly.
Yeah.
They got the Kraken.
Hey, shout out the Kraken. I think the
Yeah,
But
main
another
point.
team with no face.
I think the
Yeah.
main point you guys bring up is that they're working from a spot of weakness. You know what I mean? I think it's similar to the Browns with the Watson deal, where it's like anytime you're negotiating from a point of weakness and you really don't have any structure or backbone, the kid's a stud. And I get he's a rookie and he's been out, but it's pretty obvious he's going to be a transcendent talent for the next few years.
Yeah.
But for the money and the timing of it all, it definitely looks bad. And it's financially, it's probably not a good move. But again, it all is dependent on how good Julio is. But again, working from the point they're at, it's like it's unlikely that they were going to do any kind of a smart financial deal with the kid, because they had to pay him a lot. If not, he was going to go somewhere. Like, I'm sure he could find money at a lot of other terrible baseball teams that need somebody as the face of their franchise. So again, it's not the best ever, but like, they're working from a point of weakness. What else are they going to do? And again, if they lock him up and he is the guy, then at the end of the day, it's a good move.
We all agree, though, that it was a little surprising to see this much money get paid to a guy who hasn't even played a full season in the MLB yet. But I digress. We've covered a lot of great topics. I'm so happy the internet actually worked here at Quinnipiac and we were able to get this show out this time. Again, props to the QU studio. I'm actually in the studio at Quinnipiac, where we used to do it at WQAQ. The internet in here saved us. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to another great episode of The Cold Hard Truth. All of our social medias are going to be down in the description below. You can watch this on the Sideline Sports YouTube channel, the Cold Hard Truth YouTube channel. It'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those great stuff. You can find all our links at our Instagram at TCHT_podcast, on Twitter at TCHT_podcast1. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.